The topic that I want to bring up today is around apologizing, saying I'm sorry, or making amends in marriage. My thought was I want to share what my experience has been like for me through upbringing and just my entire life around that. And then I'd love for you to share. And then I'd love for us to just discuss what the marriage has looked like as well. And yeah, hopefully just be able to shed light on just how we approach it, which isn't necessarily the way, or it's just a way and it's not even right. But I grew up, for context, I grew up in a family that did not really use a lot of words, especially that of like, I don't know if affection is the right word, but like we didn't say I'm sorry much. We rarely said I love you, um, and we just kind of moved on. It was just like I feel like it was a lot of it through like, hey, are you good? I'm good. Nobody would ever say that, but it was just like, all right, we're good. Let's just move on. And I realized it was helpful in the moment because it's like accepting the reality, like to because there is a level of vulnerability you have to have in order to say I'm sorry and own your side and even obviously say things like I love you. And not to say that that hasn't evolved now, but just upbringing, that was a lot of what I was around. And so quickly, super easy for me. Definitely like a piece that I struggle with is around pride and ego. And if I always think I'm right, or if I don't think I did something wrong, mainly because I just move on and expect other people to do it, I'm likely going to hurt a lot of people in the process. And that's definitely been true. And so I think over time from that, I have jumped to the perspective of I'd rather be right than um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Period. I just rather be right, and
Then apologize and like then admit that you're wrong.
yeah, then admit I'm wrong or like try to figure out a way to just be right,
Hmm.
which isn't the right way. But yeah, and so for me, I just think with apologizing things like that. I mean, I've definitely been practicing it a lot more lately, just because there's a framework I use for apologies, and I think the biggest thing now is just whether it's a mixture of both God, nudging me, or just even my own conscience being like, hey, like that wasn't right. It's tough to like stop and look at the mess that you've made. It's really hard. And also to my ego, it does not like it. And so like I said, back then, like, my tendency was that of like, let me just go ahead and just blow things up and just say whatever I want, treat people however I wanted, and then just move on and expect other people to do that. And there's an example, or just a story, just to illustrate just the evolution for me, which I think has been helpful. But it's a few years ago, we went with my family on a trip. You were there, and there was just like a really intense conversation, just around family and things like that. And so it was hard, and um, I I realized I was more, how do I say it? I was more compelled to make my point and make sure that I'm heard than to hear the other side. And unfortunately, that did not work in my favor. And so ended up hurting somebody uh, from my family. Ended up leaving, and just had their own. It was a hard conversation for sure. It was tough, and I could see how they were felt like maybe they were cornered.
They left the conversation.
Yeah, they left the
That's what
conversation.
you mean by they were leaving.
Yep, exactly. They left the conversation. And it's interesting. One of my family members eventually later just came up to me and, said something along the lines of like, "Hey, I did not mean for that conversation to go that way." And crying and saying that, it's like saying, "Hey, can you go like talk to them, see how they're doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And I think in that moment, like, had it been years ago, prior to that, I probably would have been like, they're gonna get over it. They'll be fine. But that's just me self-protecting. That's just me focused on myself. And so that's a lot of what I've been. And so eventually, obviously get the opportunity to talk to this individual as a family member and hear them out. Just say, hey, like, just have them share where they're at. And then I think the biggest thing for me is just one, apologize continuously, saying, hey, I'm sorry. I can see how that can be hurtful. And I also did this other thing where I'm like, hey, I want to create a boundary it's interesting because normally boundaries are set to protect ourselves, but it's more for me from that lens. I saw it as like as a way to protect a relationship, saying, hey, I'm going to do my best to not bring up this specific topic because I could tell it's really touchy. And the hard part for me is my personality tends to be like, oh, this could be, a pretty contentious conversation or argument. And it's interesting. Somebody recently pointed it out and they gave words to it. And it's not a good thing, but sometimes I like arguing, and sometimes it's out of my own amusements, but it comes at the expense of hurting people. And I'm coming to realize that, quality or personality or character defect. And so eventually at the end, it actually ended up being a really bonding moment, really bonding moment. And I think the biggest thing for me with apologizing is that, one, my ego hates it. Like, I don't want to do it by any means. I want to do everything I can to self-protect. But I realize now, too, part of apologizing or making amends also helps me sit there with the weight of what I've done. And, when we think of terms like guilt or shame, like, there tends to be a negative association with it. But it's actually a good thing as well. Yeah. It can be immensely good as a good tool for that. So, like I said,
there's a positive side and a negative side to it. And it
Yep.
can be there's gifts in it, and then there's also, it can get to a really dark place.
Yep, exactly. And so yeah, that's kind of been my relationship. So now I think from my vantage point with marriage with you, and obviously you'll be able to share your experiences of both, bringing however much you want to share, and then I'll mainly just focus on our relationship now. Is the hard part about marriage is, like, I feel like there's constantly things to make amends for. It's just like in the day to day, like something comes up, and my just tendency is just like I want to default to like, she'll be fine. She'll get over it. Like, it's whatever. And then eventually I forget. And then you bring it up later because, you're upset or in a specific mood.
Or hurt or on it. I mean, I also just have been letting it go.
Yeah. But like, I would say in the past, though, you have held on to it. Mm-hmm. And so then I'm just like, okay, something's wrong. And then eventually, there are situations where I think there's been where you're like, hey, do you not know what you did? Do you not remember? And I'm like, I genuinely just moved on. And it's like,
that's the worst part for me, is when you just move on. You're like,
Yeah.
what? And I have to tell you what you did. That makes it feel dumb. Like, I have to ask for an apology, or I have to tell you, hey, like, that part is hard for me.
Yeah, for sure. And we could definitely get into the specifics around, because I would love to hear more of your thoughts on that. But yeah, I think now, my side, like the way I approach making amends, I mean, it's still slow. I would say I'm getting better at doing them as things come up. I'm sure I could probably do it a lot more, but
As things come up? What do you mean?
meaning like if situations come up, I think the biggest thing for me, here's how I know, like, the nudge to make amends, and it doesn't always happen. Most of the time, it doesn't happen instantly. It usually happens when I'm walking, and then, I do prayer in the morning on my walks, and then all of a sudden just the thought comes up. I'm like, and even to what I made amends to you, a few days ago, God had been bringing it up multiple walks. But here's the thing is, he's not bringing it up as like hey, you need to do this. It's like, this is bad, all these different things. And in certain cases, if he did say that, he'd be justified. But it's more like, hey, have you thought of revisiting that?
Well, that's who he is. I mean, he's never condemning. There's always hope in it.
Yeah.
There's always, hey, here's an opportunity to have restoration with your wife. That's the good news in it.
Yeah, but my thing though is,
it's
like,
never to make you feel bad.
Yeah, but sometimes if it does, I don't know if that's a bad thing as well, because I think, like, it's like going back to guilt and shame. I don't think it's
right. Yeah,
because it can also be that.
There's always hope in it.
But for me, it always feels like, because the thing is, like I said, if you approach me, and I mentioned this in the last podcast, it's like, if you approach me fighting, I'm gonna fight back. Like, that's my default. I go right there, and I realize this is where, for me, I think a relationship with God helps a ton, because it never feels that way. Now, maybe for other people, they wrestle through that. I mean, there's those examples in the Bible of Jacob and things like that, wrestling. But I realize for me, it's more like God knows who I am, my personality so well, where it feels like it feels like I'm sitting against a wall and he just comes and sits right next to me and just, kind of just looking out. And he's like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And then not so for me, I'm like, and so whether I take the action then, later, or on a different day, that's the order of sequence. Now, like I said, I think there's my tolerance or sensitivity towards other little things, still likely isn't there. I'm just like, hey, it's just day-to-day stuff. But yeah, so I'll just leave it at that. But I just wanted to share, like I said, my experience just growing up, where I came from, not to justify and say, hey, I don't want to be a victim and be like, well, this is just what I grew up with. So I'm like, because that would imply there's nothing I can do to change. No, I definitely do think that there are things I can do to change and stuff like that. And I'm glad it's happening, but at the same time, I'm like, I have a friend who literally says, he's like, man, I know I need to make amends, like meaning constantly, like just apologize to people. He's like, and so one of the biggest things that helps him not make amends a lot is he just thinks of like how impactful it is to them. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't like making amends. We like the reconciliation process if that happens, but just having to do it, it's a big ego, pride, just I have to admit I'm wrong.
For those that haven't heard, what do you mean by making amends? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, making amends is righting a wrong. It's basically like, so making amends, and I think in general, apologizing and saying I'm sorry actually has nothing to do with me. Like it's all about the individual that I'm making apologizing to.
Okay,
another way of
it's
saying
just apologizing.
But I think that the important piece here is I've learned that it had, because if it had to do with me, I would not make amends. I'm like, hey, I'm fine. I just moved on, whatever. But the point is it's not for me. It's for the other person. So that's why I use that language, because that's usually what amends means, is like trying to make a wrong right, regardless of how I feel or the impact it'll have on me. It's more about the other person and the harm that I've done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you want to jump in and start sharing.
You're not wearing your wedding ring.
Spirit.
What?
In spirit.
In spirit. I just noticed, and my brain was like squirrel. Yeah, so we grew up in completely different worlds, truly. I grew up in an atmosphere where I over-apologized, and I apologized a lot. We were taught as kids, if you hurt them or, if there was a disagreement or you hurt your sibling or whatever, you were to go and apologize. And then there was like a framework for it. And then the person, so if you were apologizing to me, you'd say, I'm sorry for this. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, and I forgive you. And where I think it's really cool to teach kids how that works and what it looks like, this framework became, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is just what we do, whether your heart was in it or not. That's my own experience, is I now have to say, I forgive you for this, or I am sorry for this. And I think on one hand, it can be easy to just quote it, whether you have a repentant heart or not. And then on the flip side is I forgive you whether I am ready to or not. And so, and I don't know if it's specifically because of that framework that I grew up in that pushed me to over apologizing, but I'm sure we'll get into this in later episodes. But I am a recovering codependent and people pleaser. And so much of my life has genuinely been built around how do I not rock the boat, and how do I, like, my core wound and my core question is, am I lovable? And are you okay with me? And so therefore everything is built around don't make people upset. Don't rock the boat. It's a visceral reaction for me when people are upset with me or that when I'm not liked. And so my life thus far truly has been built around what can I do to make sure you're not upset with me? Friends, family, strangers. And so how that relates to apologies is I'm going to over apologize and make sure if you are upset with me, I need to write it right away. And I need to make sure you know that I'm sorry. And so that started from I don't know if that mentality started at a young age with this framework that my family used. But it definitely turned into, let me make sure that I'm apologizing so that you'll be okay with me, and that I can be okay with myself. And there's so much that I could unpack there, because I am actively at like currently right now actively working on the fact that my identity is not formed by external factors, which is so, that just is asking for a roller coaster. Is if everybody else can form my identity and me being okay or not okay, my emotional state, then I mean that's how it's been thus far. But it is so, what's the word I'm looking for? That's just so sensitive and fragile. If external factors can form my emotional state. And so, yeah, going back to apologies, I just over apologize because I hate the dissonance. I hate things not being okay. Part of it is the people pleasing and the codependency. Part of it is just, that's my nature, is I don't like sitting in the confrontation. I don't like confrontation, but I don't like sitting in the dissonance of there being, conflict is the word I was looking for. I hate conflict.
Yeah.
I hate it with every fiber of my being. And if I can do something in order to fix it, I will. Now, I did mention in the last episode that we've gone through a season of stonewalling. And so I can get to that point when things are really bad. Stonewalling and just shutting everything out and checking out. But for the most part, I'm going to do what I can to get to the happy, to get to the joy, get to the restoration part. So in our marriage, do you want me to jump into that, or are you wanting to start?
Yeah,
That's how it's been with everybody. It's not just in marriage. Is I'm going to apologize because I can't stand the feeling of, oh, you're upset with me, and it definitely leans over apologizing.
Yeah, I think there's one thing I would like to kind of zero in on, is you saying you don't like, the dissonance, you don't like being unsettled. And I think
Yeah,
that's
a good word.
I think that's true for me as well, but we interact with it differently. For you, it's like, hey, let's just address this. Let's get this cleared up, apology, forgiveness, move on. Whereas for me, the mechanism or the tools in my tool belt are like, let me ignore. So then I just don't have to feel or think about this. I just completely just disregard, or get to a point where like, I just feel like in a sense I've developed, and I think by God's grace it's changing, but a level of like, it's like no sensitivity, or like, how do I say it? It's like seeing people who are sad or upset, I could just see them and then just be like, oh, interesting, they're upset, and like I wonder why they feel that way, knowing that like, hey, this thing happened. Like I just just stare at people who are sad, and I just can't relate to that emotion. And so I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that's lack of sensitivity, or like there's a specific word that I'm looking for, but it's just like disassociate. Maybe that's what it is. It's like there's just so much disassociation where I just look at people and I'm like, oh, they're sad and upset. Let me move. I just take it as a fact. I don't have any emotional thing to it. I just see it and then I just move on. And so that's why there's such situations where we've been in arguments, or I've been cruel or hurtful to you, and I could just move on because I disassociate. I'm like, it just is what it is, and I just move on. And no, obviously that's not the right way to do it.
Have you done any learnings about that, like one where it came from or how to change that?
Yeah, I don't know if where it came from really matters. I think what matters the most is what am I doing about it now?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think especially too, let's say you're the recipient of it, I would say you probably care less about knowing where it came from and all these sort of things, and more like, hey, can we just stop doing this?
I'm curious. I'm always curious.
No, I'm not saying you're curious. I'm just saying, for if somebody is in the midst of all this and they're just experiencing this from a loved one, from a spouse, I don't know if they're going to be like, oh, hey, I really care about the root of this. It's like, you can keep treating me however you want. And then once you get there, once you get to some sort of solution, great.
But I'm telling you, I am curious where it came from.
No, for sure. But what I'm telling you is like, for me, like, since I take that view, I have no interest in really learning where that's from other than letting God change me from the
Yeah.
inside out. So yeah, so I think that's the thing that comes to me is like we both can be unsettled with that, but the way we wrestle with it can be different.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then we got married.
Yep.
Opposites got
Yeah.
married.
So with you, like you said, like the standard was apologize and forgiveness. Like you have to forgive. I'm curious for you now, and we'll obviously go into marriage, but this is the thing that came up for me. How do you think you want to show your child how to, address wrongs and make amends and expectations? I'm curious, knowing like your experience and your growth in that area. How do you want to approach that?
I think the biggest thing is modeling it.
But what do you want to model? Like that's what I'm asking
Yeah.
specifically.
Well, that's what I was about to say is I think modeling a healthy version. So not me, not you. Somewhere in the middle to where we're quick to, I love the verse that says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. And I think we can model, hey, I'm so sorry for this. To him is going to be, you said this last episode, like, mommy messed up, daddy messed up, I'm so sorry. And then reinforcing, but God will never fail you. God will never let you down. And so between us and our son is being humble and quick to, even if it's to each other, like, hey, I'm so sorry that you saw mommy be upset with daddy. That had nothing to do with you. Mommy's heart wasn't right. This is what the Lord wants us to do. This is what mommy, or what Jesus wants me to do is, apologize, take ownership over it, and then do differently next time. So I think it's modeling that conflict between us in front of him, and then also to him and others, to him and future siblings, is teaching the heart posture. And maybe that's what I was trying to get at with modeling. It's like teaching the heart posture. This is what the Lord wants us to do and not do. So let's fix our heart. And I remember watching when I was babysitting once and having this interaction with a 2-year-old, and I saw the heart change. And okay, so we were at a park, and I don't remember what it was, but he was angry, and I said, okay. I said, we're not gonna go play until we're done eating our food. And 2 years old, doesn't have a ton of words obviously yet, and so got angry and hit me. And I said, we do not hit. And then starts the crying, and I'm holding him, and I say, I love you so much. We do not hit. That's not how we use our hands. I understand that you're frustrated. I also want to go play, but we need to finish our lunch first, and then we can go play. I love you, and I'm going to sit here with you. You're not alone in it. And I felt his body relax, and I said, and we do not hit with our hands. And so then he looks up, sorry. And then just, I saw that, like, visibly saw the change. And I think that was a really cool interaction for me to see, because from that point on, I felt something different in our relationship. He trusted me. He learned from an adult, a safe adult, that there's boundaries. There's things that you can and can't do, but it's all out of love. And I want you to go play. I want you to be able to go play at the park. Here's the boundary that I set up. And so, so teaching the apology side to a young kid is, can you please let's say sorry. I don't remember how I said that, but that's not what we do with our hands, and that's not, something along the lines of, that's not how Jesus wants our heart to be. I understand that you're frustrated. So I think I would do that with a young child, our son when he's young. And then I think there's age appropriate versions too.
Knowing our both of our upbringings with apologies, I'm curious. I have a take or perspective on this. Do you think both of our ways historically in our upbringing of apologizing can be both selfish? Like both of them can be selfish. Obviously, you have two extremes, but can they both be selfish?
Well, you were saying that you didn't apologize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So not both versions of apologizing, but both upbringings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is for your side?
I think for me, the way that it can be taken is, I need you to forgive me so that everything's okay. If you, that can be for me. Versus I apologize and this has happened. You're not ready to forgive. You're not ready for things to be made right or to reach the restoration side. And I have to sit with that. And that's really difficult. So I think that it can be surrounded around self if it's the framework, I apologize, okay, now you forgive me.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that because that is my perspective as well. I think both sides can be selfish. One of them for me is like self-protecting. It's like, hey, I'm not going to address this and just, I'm focused on me. Whereas for you, it's like, I want to apologize so I can feel good. It's not like what I did to the other person was harmful and I care about them and I just want to address it. And the hard part is like the thing about apologizing or like I said before, making amends is like they could still be pissed off. They could still be upset. They could be like, you know what, no, I'm still gonna be upset, and there's nothing you can do about that other than just hopefully ask them, hey, is there anything I can do to make it right? And if you can't, then you just move on and just continue along because at least you did your
Or
side.
not moving on or saying, hey, let me know when you're ready if there's anything else you need from me.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think that's the kind thing. This is getting more into the weeds of it, but okay, this fly has been really annoying me. There's actually a couple. Oh my gosh, there's a few. Gross. Squirrel brain. Hopefully I can get back to what I was saying. What did you just say?
I just said about ways of making apologies and.
Oh yeah. So I think that's one way is us talking about what you need from the other person is saying like, hey, I know you aren't ready to talk about this. Can we revisit it and let me know when you're ready? And it's not. I think there's a healthy way to do it. In my mind, my current state would, okay, tell me exactly what you need so that I can do it so that we can get happy. I don't think necessarily that is like needs to happen every time. Because sometimes I apologize, and you're like, cool, I've moved on. But you have in the past, it's been a long time since you've said this. You're like, I'm just not ready to deal with it, or I'm not ready to. I don't think you've said the word ready to forgive. But I think, okay, then let's revisit it and you let me know what it is that you need. Oh, that's what I was saying. It's not so that I can say it perfectly. And I can sit in that camp where I would really like for you to apologize in this way so I feel like you're sorry and I feel the apology and I feel the repentance.
Which is a dangerous place to go, in my opinion. Because that's that of control versus like, yeah, that's where that's where that gets really dicey for me. Yeah, I would say it's unhealthy from my perspective. Obviously, you have your own way of doing it and upbringing, but
It's not just upbringing. I have talked about it with a friend, and a friend will say, I didn't feel that was sincere. Can you try again later? And I don't know. I can resonate with that.
Totally, it's control.
It's being honest.
Yeah, and
Because
controlling. It's both and.
Here's the thing, John. Here's the thing. You have apologized just to apologize. And you've
Yep.
even said it. And it's probably out of pride. or your own ego or whatever, all these things that you're saying.
Well, and also,
And you're
I
like,
didn't think I was wrong.
I'm just apologizing because I'm supposed to. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't want that.
Sweet. So,
Like, ugh.
so then if that's the case, do I not apologize then?
I don't think so. Not if your heart's not in
Yeah.
it.
Sweet. So then I just move on. Because typically a lot of those things, and that's where I think having the nuance is helpful, because for me, I'm like, I don't think I did something wrong. You think I did something wrong. I don't think I did something wrong. So it's like, hey, you need to apologize for this. Okay, great. I'm just going to say words. I'm going to apologize. So then that way you
I
feel
don't
better.
say you need to apologize for this. I mean, maybe I have historically,
I think
but
you
I
have.
would like an apology, or I
Yeah.
feel hurt. And you're like, okay, well then I'll just say sorry.
Yeah.
Like, that's not right.
Why?
It's actually a lie if you think about it. I'm sorry for this. No, you're not.
And I agree. And so like in those situations where I'm like, hey, I don't feel sorry for this. I don't feel I did something wrong. But if you want me to do this, I'll do it. Like if you want the words. Now, if you're looking for the whole like, oh, I'm like super sorry. Like I swear I'll never do this again. There's gonna be dissonance for me because I don't believe I did something wrong.
Do you ever feel sorry?
Yes,
Okay.
for sure, totally. I mean, I just apologized to you a day or so ago, and it's not because I didn't want to sooner, but it's because, like I said, I went through my process with God, and eventually He revealed it to me. But 100%. But not every little thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like my sensitivity to things is not as dialed in as other people. Now, for you, you definitely can be like a sponge and take everything in. Whereas for me, I'm just like, just bounces off. Mainly because of my upbringing. Like I grew up, whether it's family or friends, like it was like they put you through the ringer. They said a lot of things. They treated you certain ways where you're like, you had to develop thick skin and be quick on your feet and
Yeah.
respond and things like that. You didn't grow up that way. That's how I grew up. And so my thing is my threshold of like, I mean, the things things have been said to me, but also to the things I've said to other people. I mean, it's all self-protecting. That's exactly what it is. And so that's what I'm saying, like my sensitivity to it is not there. And the thing I was going to ask you, but maybe I won't ask, I'll just say it, is I think you and I likely perceive you will disagree, but I think, apologizing to somebody, because you've apologized to me several times about things in the past, and I'm like, that's, you don't have to apologize for that. I've told you that multiple times.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I just feel like I need, And so for me, the thing I was going to say is like, I think apologizing like that can be selfish because you're trying to, like, you have your side of the street stuff and you're like, hey, I feel like there's something here that's wrong. And I'm like, nope, nothing wrong. It's like, well, I'm going to apologize anyway. So you can be like, cool, boom. I have it off my chest. It's out there. I feel good. Whereas for me, I think the thing that has challenged me, because I talked to somebody recently, I'm like, hey, I feel like I described the scenario and I said, do you think I have to apologize? Like, I don't believe any harm has been done. And so I said, what do I do? It's like, hey, well, maybe you should take time to reflect. Like, what is it about it that's unsettling you? And maybe it's bring it to God. What is God going to reveal to you? Because there's likely something there. And so for me, I think both of us bring in a lot of what baggage or just perspective behind this, whether it's good and whether it's healthy or whether it's unhealthy. And so that's where, for me, going back to what we're talking about, like I just, what I mentioned in the last podcast is we don't agree on on a lot. Not a lot. We don't agree on everything. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. We do agree on a lot of things. It's just our methods sometimes may look a little bit different. But I think,
I mean, there's a few things that we really disagree on.
yeah, I really disagree on, and that's okay.
I think this is one of them.
Yeah, and that's okay. And that's where for me,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's like, hey, do I need to do, because you already mentioned, you used the words like codependent, which could you just define what that is, just so people know what that is, and then I'll speak to that piece.
The definition it can vary, but for me,
Yep.
it's what I said earlier about my identity. So I'm not okay if things are not okay. Mm-hmm. If you're upset with me, that dictates how I feel.
Yep. So now my question is, if you take it from that standpoint, do you think you can also do the reverse?
What do you mean?
So like, for example, saying, hey, if you're not okay, then I need to make that right.
Or if you're okay, then okay. You're okay? Okay, then I can be okay.
Yep.
Sorry, what?
So my question is in reverse. So like, let's say you say, hey, like if somebody else is not okay, that means like, hey, I'm not okay as well. Like you just take on
Yeah.
either whatever they're going through or whatever even you think that they're going through that they think.
Yeah.
Now, do you think the opposite can be true where like, I'm not okay and you need to feel this as well as the same thing as me? So my thing is like, knowing that that's your default and knowing that you're saying, hey, this is not right what you did. You need to be repentant. You need like, in a sense, my perception would be like you're projecting. I don't know if it's a reverse or I don't know if it's just codependency on other people. Now there are situations where I think it can be helpful, but that would be my observation off the bat.
It can be that way, yes. And it's both and. So it can be that way, the codependency piece, the over apologizing, but also the healthy side of it is I am very empathetic. Like to the core, my nature is compassionate, empathetic. So if I know that something's bothering you, I'm gonna want to make things right. So what you were saying earlier about, oh, I just don't feel bad, like I don't think I did anything wrong. If it were me, I would still want to say, I'm sorry that really upset you. If you, whatever the thing is that, okay, maybe you're not sorry about that, or you need to apologize for what it is, but it's like, you can say something, yeah, like it's still caring for the other person.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that upset you. I'm really sorry that you're feeling really frustrated about this. That's so the kind and caring thing to do.
Totally.
And I don't think that is codependent.
Yeah.
I think when I have said, yeah, I would love, I don't know how it's come up when you're like, what, do you need me to apologize? Yes, I would love an apology. I don't want it to be fake. Like I mean, that's kind of a light bulb. If it is, you are lying if you say you're sorry and you're not. But you're
It's
like,
not-
when you're like,
it's not
I just have
lying.
nothing to say.
Yeah. It's
We'll
not,
find something to say. That's in my mind.
and that's
again,
codependent. That's codependent.
it's not codependent when you ask me.
Well, because
when you ask me what
well,
do I
because
need?
because you're saying, hey, find something to be like sorry about. It's like that's for me that would like I resonate with everything you said prior to that, but for me it is like the way you're describing it is out of control. That's how it's exactly how I see it.
But how I started that, don't you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
totally.
Is,
That makes
hey, I'm
sense.
sorry that's frustrating, or I'm sorry
Yep.
that you're sad about that.
Yep, totally. And I do think that that is the right way. Like I think that should be the default. Now that's like I said, knowing my upbringing, like
But you just said that that's control. It's not
no,
control.
no, 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 no. The latter part of that description, where you're just like, you describe this scenario, which makes total sense. The hard part is when you start to add, hey, it needs to be done this way. Hey, I don't know if I believe you. I don't like. That's your side of the street stuff that quite frankly, and then this is what we learned in counseling is like that's just the stuff you need to work on. So whether and like for you to say, hey, I'm lying, I'm like, I start off by saying, I don't think there's anything to be, I apologize for.
I think that's another conversation that it just pisses me off that you don't have remorse, and I have so much remorse. Or
Well, you're a codependent, I'm not.
it's not just that. It is not just that. It's that I have empathy, and oftentimes you can't even access that. That's what's hard for me.
Why is that hard for you?
Just like things that are hard, like, oh, I don't know, nothing's coming to mind, but things that come naturally to you, it's annoying to you that it doesn't come naturally to me. Oh, like how easily I forget things. You're like, seriously, we already talked about this. Like that annoys you. So because it comes so naturally to me, and that is my natural bent, is to be compassionate and empathetic, and how can I make you feel better? Yes, it can turn into a codependent side, but it's not always codependent.
Yeah, it's not always. But my thing is like, I think my radar, especially mainly just being married with you, is I feel like there is like a sixth sense where I feel like I can tell when it's being codependent, because I realize you actually start, your posture changes from that of like, hey, this, because a lot of times when, and it makes sense, you're angry and upset, I feel like,
And then I think it gets exasperated when you're like, I'm just not sorry.
yeah,
Sorry, I cut you off.
totally. I think I mentioned this to you. I don't know if it's a one-on-one or a marriage counseling, but I think I would listen differently if it wasn't so accusatory, and it was like shared from a perspective of like, hey, that really hurt.
Yeah. Staying in the
That
hurt instead of the anger.
oh, because
Going
that's
to
what
the
it
anger.
goes to.
Yeah.
And so my thing
Often.
is, like I said, whether it's for me in certain cases, I don't think it's always in this case, but like if it's anger and it's accusatory, my default, what is my default, is to push back
Yeah.
or self-protect as
Yeah.
well.
Well, that hits up against what we talked about last week. Is my counselor and our marriage counselor has really talked about that with me. Is staying in the hurt, coming to you with the hurt versus the anger that's masking it, or it turns into. Where if I can come with the hurt, but that requires feeling safe, and that hits up against everything we talked about last week. Is that if I can come to you with my tears and it's like that hurt puppy that's showing the wound. That requires safety.
Yeah, for sure. And the only way you're going to create a vulnerable environment is if you're vulnerable. Like you, like
Totally.
And so, I think with, you know, I understand what you're saying from your perspective, saying, hey, like you should.
Because I have tried that, and there are times where it has gone well, and there are times where it hasn't.
Yeah, but I would say the majority of the time that's not the default.
Right.
And I'm just used to the default.
Right. That I come in
And
anger versus my hurt.
yeah, and
Because
then
it hasn't been safe to.
yeah, but then it becomes controlling and all sorts of stuff. So my thing is just like, maybe it's already a hostile environment, and then we just add more.
Yeah.
It's like, how is anything productive going to happen?
I mean, even in this, I'm like, this is where my brain's going. Who's going to want to listen to this arguing? Huh. Maybe it's helping somebody because somebody's feeling seen, but because I don't like conflict, I'm like, this is not the kind of video or podcast I would want to listen to.
Totally. Well, it makes sense. I mean, for me, honestly, I don't mind it, mainly because I would actually listen to something like this because it's real and it's honest. And honestly, I'm super super critical person for sure. I think the thing I think of is like when churches do like wedding panels or couples and things like that, it's always like polished, great. I'm saying all these things. Rarely do we see a situation like this. Now, that's not to say, like, obviously, those that are listening, like, we have a lot of work. I especially have a lot of work to do and grow in areas. This is just where I'm at, but it's real and it's honest.
Yeah.
And so whether people relate with you or me or just like, these people are really broken, I need to figure it out. Like, you're right, 100%. But these are the type of discussions that we sometimes do have, and it does get heated for sure. But I think I think in general, and I actually find them enjoyable. Whereas
I know
you don't.
you do. You find intimacy in it. And I'm like, it takes all my willpower to stay in the conversation versus book it.
Well, because I see you even throughout this conversation, I can tell like your blood starts boiling. I'm like, this is really interesting. Now for me, my personality type, like I said, I may be rare in this, but I'm like, oh, it's tense. How do I make it more tense?
It's so annoying.
And then it just goes from there. But I think going back to the apology piece, I think with what you're describing, I do think that is a desire to eventually, because I think the ego and pride thing is a big piece. Do I think it's right to say to somebody who comes to you, said, hey, that was really hurtful, what you said was hard, and like, I think the hard piece for me is being told what to do.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
So if you come to me saying, hey, that was really hurtful, and just want to share that with you, and then just leave it there, I think for somebody who got a big pride and ego, or like big ego like myself, would be like, hey, oh, that's a bummer. Like, okay, I'm going to apologize. Versus, saying you need to apologize, and then eventually being met with, that was just words, or that was not good. And I'm like, you're like, if my perception was already, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm just going to double down. I'm like, yeah, there's no point. Like, you're going to control this whole situation, and then all of a sudden what could have been an honestly a beautiful moment, a helpful, restorative moment, is now just filled with control. Yeah. And so now, to say that, like, you describing it's like, hey, like, man, I'm sorry that I did that, totally, It's just I know for me, it's maybe the environment in which it's conveyed,
Sure.
and so that's why I brought up in the past. I know that you mentioned with your counselor as well as our counselor, the idea of like staying in the hurt versus jumping into anger. I just don't know if that's the default that we've created.
Yeah.
And for me, with being hurt by you, I just have held it in, and it's become resentment, and then I just move on. It's still there. Um, Mainly because I think part of me also wants to be like, hey, like maybe I just want Jamie to just move on and just just drop it. But that's obviously just thinking about me. But I also think as well, it's like there are situations where like there's probably people in my past who I would love for them to apologize for these things, but that's not for me to prompt them. That's for God, or maybe it never happened. That's not my side of the street. That's for them to figure that out.
And I think, I don't
Go
know
ahead.
where you're getting with that, where you're going, but what's so cool is that there can be redemption without the other person.
Yep.
Well, sorry, not redemption in the relationship, but there can be resolve
Yep.
without the other person.
How so though?
And that's at the cross. That's only through Jesus.
Well,
And
how specifically?
what do you mean?
Like, so like, let's say let's say you're holding on to something from somebody from years ago. Obviously, you're saying it's only through Jesus at the cross, but what does that mean in actual? Like, what do people have to do?
Yeah, it's naming it out loud, hopefully to God. That's been my experience. Is there's some people that hurt me excruciatingly in the past, and our pastor taught, or at our old church, we went through a series on Psalms, and I had never heard of this word, but there's imprecatory Psalms, which David or the authors are angry, and there's space and freedom to be completely and brutally honest about where you're at. If you look at David, woe is me, my enemies are on all sides. I'm gonna die. I hate them. It's giving you permission and space to be completely honest with where you're actually at. Not all polished, coming to God saying, "Oh well, I know that I shouldn't be angry at that." It's like, be honest. You hate them. And when you are given the freedom to feel everything and bring it to God and be honest with yourself, then there's space to let it go. And it was after listening to that teaching about imprecatory Psalms that I was able, I snot cried in the car after listening to it. And I was able to say out loud, I hate these people, I hate this person, and I am not okay. And then bringing it to Jesus, and Jesus saying, well, I care for you, and you're never going to get an apology from them ever. It's not a thing. But I care for you, and there's freedom for you regardless of this other person. And there's justification. Whether or not I see it here on earth, it's all made right because of what Jesus did for us. And saying it out loud to another person so that they can grieve with you is often helpful. I did in counseling. I talked about this so much in counseling. So for me, it was really helpful to say to another human.
So did you let go, or did you finally surrender it?
It's taken years. And if sometimes it pops up again and I have to do it all over again, but I'm
Do
not
what all over again?
let things go or like pray about it or I've even shared with you things that have come up.
And the reason I ask is not because I don't remember this. Just I want to provide more context.
Yeah. So it's, for me, from my own experience, it's not been one and done. Sometimes it is, but it has been years of healing for some things in my past.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about abuse or an assault or something major, like that's not, I'll speak for myself. I don't know about anybody else. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to be, okay, I've said it out loud, now I'm just over it. It can be over and over and years and years and years of healing and layers of it. I mean, with this specific situation I'm talking about, there's been so many layers where I forgive one thing and I see growth in my heart and I see, okay, I'm past that. And then like seeing the person again or remembering more things like, okay, here's another layer. And I think being true to yourself is not just expecting yourself to get over it or, okay, I've done enough work or, okay, I've said it out loud. Why am I still feeling this? Like, have grace for yourself. If something's coming up for you and you're still feeling feelings around it, okay, then there's more work to do and there's more forgiveness to be had or grace. And going back to it again, it doesn't require the other person. And I think that can be pretty common in life, is that there's lots of situations we're not going to get an apology or we're not going to get an amends or someone wanting to come and make things right, which is devastating. We live in a really, really broken, messed up world. And there's still opportunities for restoration. Maybe not redemption in the relationship, but for us, we can learn to be okay. I have learned to be okay regardless. And I'm going to be really honest. I waited years. Not that I waited years for an apology, but I spent years wanting it, desperately wanting it. And then it came to a point realizing it's never going to happen. If it did, it would be a miracle and that would be wild, but I'm not waiting for it. If it did, that would be a bonus. That would be the cherry on top. But I'm not sitting around waiting for it because I'm the one, we talk about this often, resentment and bitterness is drinking poison and expecting the other person to get hurt.
To die.
And I spent so many years of that, just wishing harm on them or wishing for things to be made right or wishing things to be different. And I wasted a lot of emotions and years just staying in resentment. I mean, we'll get to our story, but it's true for our story, like in our marriage too, is I spent so many years just waiting for you to apologize or waiting for things to be made right. Amazingly, and because of God's grace, things are being made right.
But it's interesting though, because eventually we will get to it, but you're like, finally make the apology and it didn't feel the way that you thought it would feel.
Yeah.
And that's sort of for me, I mean, totally respect and honor your experience with all this. I know that the hardest path and the best path forward, for me at least, has been that of praying for the other individual constantly.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is just letting it go. I had an experience 9 months ago, and I was at a lunch with some friends, and everybody was just getting really they were all getting on my nerves. Like, they were just being really loud and rowdy. And I mean, I'm loud and rowdy, but it's just funny because Jonathan was in the center of attention. So it's like, okay, this is not fun. And then people were just being rude
That's so real.
People are being rude to the waitress, and I'm just like, I'm just such a, in such a bad space mentally. I'm just judging everybody. And finally, somebody just complained about, like, hey, we were at a restaurant, and I think we were like over 8 people, and it's like, you know how certain restaurants charge you a specific gratuity. And the guy's like, wait, they already charged me? And he was complaining, and I just looked over. I'm like, do you want me to pay for your gratuity for you? And it's like, it was condescending. That's what it was. But I was just so annoyed by that point. I said that. He didn't say. He just responds like, no, it's okay. I can pay for myself, and that was it. And boy, in that moment, I loved it because I felt powerful. I'm like, okay, I felt everything was out of control, and that was a source for me to finally get power. And then the next morning, I'm walking, and God puts them on my heart. I'm like, no. I'm like, why? Like, they were annoying, God. Like, they were being selfish, and they were treating the waitress and being careless around her and all these sort of things. And it's just like, you should call them. And I'm like, and so eventually we're in a situation where we're in the same space together. We're about to eat again, and he sits right next to me. He just sat there, and I'm like, I feel like God's like, hey, now's the time. I'm like, I turned to him. I'm like, hey, can I talk to you? He's like, hey. He's like, actually, I want to talk to you too. It's like, "Yeah, okay." And I said, hey, I'm sorry for the way I treated you. I'm sorry for that just the way I responded to you. It was not right of me to do. And he looks at me. He's like, Jonathan, honestly, I hated you. He's like, literally, you did that, and I just hate came in my heart. And he's just like, I didn't respond or say anything. He's like, but man, I've been holding on to it since. And it was a few weeks, honestly, since that passed. And eventually, like after our meal, we ended up actually having a one-on-one conversation. He started sharing his story, I shared mine, and it's interesting because I see him often, and I'm like, man, I just see him because in the past, like, if I didn't, if God didn't bring up to them up to me, and then eventually I didn't take the action, my default would be, I'm going to be pissed off. Like he deserved that. He was being, they were all being, jerks, but it's interesting, just one making the apology and then continue to pray for him. I'm like, man, I see him and I love that guy. It's like I didn't really have a relationship with him much past that, but just anytime I see him, I just have tons of joy. And that's for me, both making amends, and I think the biggest thing is praying for them changes my heart. And it's crazy because somebody else said this again, is like, if you resent somebody, if you hate them or all these sort of things, just pray for them and watch your heart and your posture change. And I think the bigger piece is just letting it go. It's like, hey, or surrendering it to God. Because I think that the hard piece, and you've said this to me in the past, obviously we'll get into our story, and I think we can all relate to this as human beings, but it is a sad or hard thing to say, is like saying, hey, I don't like the fact that you're getting off the hook.
Oh, totally.
Like blood needs to be shed. Something needs to happen in order for this to be made right. And my thing is just like, and I have those feelings too with other people. I'm like, no, this is wrong. I just gave an example of somebody, treating somebody bad. I'm like, you need to pay, so I'm gonna treat you bad now, and two wrongs don't make it right. And I just go back to like, man, what if God treated us that way? He's like, man, you've betrayed me, you've turned your back on me, you've rebelled against me, you've spoken ill of me, you represent all these different things, and it's like, you know what? I need you to pay this price or this cost, and until I feel that, then you can be my sons and daughters. Like, thank God it's not that way. And so like, I'm glad that your journey is now, fast forward to today with those individuals or specific people that you mentioned. It's like, hey, like I feel like I have more and more relief, and even though you may never get that apology, it is working out for the better, which is great. My only pushback is I think it could be done sooner, mainly because it's like taking the path that we don't want to take, which is that of praying for them consistently. I think mainly just letting it go. Because everything in me, like I said, I do have that tendency to want to like this person, just like, God, just this one person, just make them pay. But it's like, just
What
let
would
them
you
off the hook.
what would you say to a rape victim? The same answer. Just pray for them and get over it.
So that's a really nuanced situation. I'm not a rape victim myself. I am a victim of abuse sexually. And I think, from the tools that I've developed is understanding that I think the first thing is seeing them as this is a sinner in need of a savior. As much as I dislike or all these sort of things, they're a sinner in need of a savior just as I am. I don't know their state of mind. I don't know where they were. I don't think what they did is right, for sure. But my thing is like, if you're going to hold on to this, is going back to, if you're going to hold on to this resentment and this thing, it's literally drinking poison and expecting them to die. And so it's always interesting to see, and I've heard people who have experienced that, share of like, they never get to, get that apology or get any of that reconciliation, but the release of finally letting go, it's not to say that they're off the hook. Hopefully, whether it's the law addresses that or God eventually addresses that.
Or natural consequences.
Yeah, or natural consequences, whatever that is. Out of our control. I don't think it's on us to go manufacture and create that. Now, you have to do your due diligence, and not due diligence, but you have to go do, report and all that sort of, like take the right precautions. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the spiritual side of like, hey, do I want to continue to live chained to this experience or chained to this individual? And like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I've never been in a situation, but knowing that I'm a sinner and I've hurt other people have hurt me, my choices are either hold on to it and hope that I change one day and maybe I get better, or God, I can't, this is too much for me to hold on. Here you go. And it's not, and I get you saying, um, just move on. It's like, no, just you're giving it to God and trusting God's will will be done. However that looks, whether it's my way or his, like, however it looks, it's, God, I trust you with this. And it brings me back to the scripture where it's like every tear, I can't remember what the actual scripture is again. Maybe it's in Revelation.
God collects every tear.
Yeah, every tear and all that sort of stuff. And so I think that is really good news.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to camp out in the anger and resentment, and I hate them, and they deserve to be punished, and for whatever the situation. It doesn't have to be rape. It could be, I mean, we've even, like, being cut off, just
Yep.
wanting ill, being cut off on while driving, wanting ill on the other person. I think what has brought so much healing for me is knowing that God hates it too. God hates the sin. God hates
Yeah.
the abuse. And this is probably one of the number one hardest questions and conversations. Why does God let bad things happen? And we're not going to unpack that today. But what I do know is, I can't answer that question, but what I do know is he hates the brokenness. He hates the hurt. And even more than I do, and what I've walked through, it grieves him too. And I started getting choked up when you said, just constantly praying for them and wishing it happened earlier for me. I do too, but I'll be really, really honest. I could not pray for them for a while. I did not want good for them. I wanted ill for them. And the part where I can take a deep breath and let it go, or take a deep breath and sit, is knowing that I believe in a God that wants good for me, wants restoration for me, wants healing for me, and he hates what happened. And there's healing in that for me because I don't feel alone. And this shouldn't have happened. Correct, it shouldn't have. But we live in such a broken, fallen world that it points to needing a savior. It points to needing someone who can make all things right. And I love we have been saved from sin, we are being saved, and we will be saved. Presence, power, and I need to look this up, and we'll have to put it in the comments. We were saved from the power of sin. We're being saved from the presence of sin, and we will be saved. No, we will be saved. Anyway, I'm screwing that up, but it's like we have been saved because of Jesus' work on the cross. We're still being saved, and we will be saved once again, once and for all, when he comes back for us, or once we're in heaven. But yeah, holding the fact that, or receiving the fact that God hates what happened, and he is the one that can restore, regardless if there is reconciliation here or not.
Yeah.
And I think in certain instances, have stepped into, I can pray for them and want the best for them. And then in certain instances, I'm still working on it. It's really cool for you that you are just in that camp. But hopefully I'm not alone, and someone else can relate to. I'm still working on it.
Well, and honestly, even too, prior to just having exposure to, just making amends and apologizing more recently, I'm in that camp. I'm like, honestly, it's not even that. It's just disassociating, ignoring. Mm-hmm. But then if it comes up, or if somebody says that person's name, I'm like, ugh, whatever. Like, I'm just my posture's not.
Oh, totally.
It's not right. But here's another like perspective to think through, and I'm curious. Like, we've been focusing, like, And that's the hard part with making a, apologizing is the tendency is like, we look at it for like, hey, other people need to apologize to us, or like I need to feel better about myself. But my thought is this, is what if there is like a Jamie out there who experienced you, like even though you are a kind and humble person, but what if they're like,
She really hurt
she,
me.
and it completely went over your head, like,
Totally.
because I remember hearing somebody say like, hey, like somebody asked like, hey, should I go apologize to this, make amends or apologize to this person? It's like, well, what's the harm that you did, to them? It's like, well, I've just resented them my whole life. It's like, well, they don't know that, and if you tell them that they may be distraught, that may actually hurt them. Like, wait, what? Are you like, all that sort of stuff? And so I just think that's another humbling lens. Is like, with how much weight or focus I put on this person who has harmed me, like, what if I have that same exact experience with somebody else who I
Totally.
have completely disregarded
Totally.
because I'm in my own world?
Yeah, I heard it said, I don't want someone to hold me to my worst moments, and so don't hold them. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier to want that grace for ourselves and not
Yeah.
extend it. And that's where I can step into self-righteousness and being on my high horse. Well, I'm not like that. Ooh, that is so gross. Because I am actively still working on that with someone.
Yeah.
I don't think that my sin is as bad, or I
Yeah.
don't think that I am as bad as. And maybe I don't treat people like this person has, but you're correct. I know that I've hurt people.
Yeah.
My sisters and I have talked about this, that in my own insecurity in high school, I would put them down to make myself feel better, and that still grieves me. And I've apologized for it multiple times, but that really grieves me. And so you're right, I have hurt people,
Yep.
and I hope.
And
That
I'm not saying yep. I'm saying yep for me. Like,
I hope that they don't still hate me because of it and holding me to my that quote, holding me to my worst moments.
they're like, oh, Jamie, man, I've been in counseling for years, and I'm still not.
That makes me so sad to think about.
And so, like for me, I think.
But going back to that quote is not holding people to their worst moments, but letting them get better.
Yeah.
And letting them grow.
Yep. I've heard it said too, like another way of framing it is like the way I interact with God is usually this lens is like, God, have mercy on me, but have justice with them. Mercy for me and justice
There's
against
so
them.
many parables in Scripture.
Oh yeah, so many.
It's like
And-
the Pharisee that comes into the synagogue and he's praying. He's like, oh yeah. And there's a poor man praying, just begging God. And the Pharisee's like, oh yeah, God, thank God I'm not like that praying. And how often can we have that heart posture? Oh, thank God I'm not like that. Thank God
Yep.
I don't treat people like that. Thank God that I'm not,
Yeah,
there's grace for that too.
totally. So I'll leave it for you. I would love for both of us to tie this up. I know that we could probably go a lot longer, but I want you to either leave a final thought or maybe summarize a point. Like, what's something that you would want to kind of close from your perspective, and then I'll share mine.
Well, we didn't even really get into how it affects our marriage or what it's like, because I have questions.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a part two.
Yeah, well, we can definitely do a part two.
Because I have questions with how you opened up
Opened up about what?
about, my pride and my ego. And like, I'm just curious about that. Like, what stops you from apologizing? Because you even said, I'm getting better at it. And I maybe don't feel that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you're getting better in the sense that you actually will do an apology
Yeah.
now. But it doesn't feel, because you had said something like more active. Well, that simple apology took you days.
Yeah.
And that's not a dig for anybody listening.
No,
It's
no,
not
no.
like,
I don't take it as that. You can dig me as much as you
I'm
want.
not digging. I'm just saying I'm curious where I'm curious where you're at
Yeah.
in your process.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get to where I am at, and I don't want that for you.
Yeah, I don't want that for me either.
But for a very simple apology, it did take you days.
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm curious. Yeah, I'm just curious where you're at.
It has to do with identity and my perception of myself. That's why it goes back to pride and ego. It's like, hey, what Jonathan says is right. What he does is right. Everything he does is right. I did something wrong to somebody, therefore I'm wrong. and that's dissonance, or that causes dissonance with what I believe about to be true about myself. So for me, I'm like, it's self-protecting. But which the root of all of it is ego and pride. Is I'm trying to protect myself, my
Which
image.
then the root of pride is fear, right?
I think pride is honestly a root of its own. It could maybe be directed to pride, to fear, but I think pride is its own. I mean, pride is such a big thing that the Bible obviously speaks to. But for me, that's what it comes down to. Is like, one, like I'll dismiss. I'll be like, oh, people are so sensitive. Like, why don't you just get over it?
I have heard that a time or two.
But it's
in my
self-protecting
day.
because it means if
For
I
me.
did something wrong, I have to make it right by cleaning my side of the street. And I don't,
For
and I don't
those-
like that.
For those that don't know that analogy, they talk about in counseling, they talk about staying on your side of the street for various reasons.
Yeah, because you have trash on your side of, we both have trash on our side of the streets.
Trash and gunk and things that you're working on. And to stay on your side is to work on your own stuff. It's like take the log out of your own eye before looking
point
at
out
the
the-
speck
yep.
in someone else's. And so it's like work on your own stuff. Focus on your own stuff instead of pointing out the trash on there. So, well, you need to do this. Like, look at all the stuff you need to do too, dude. And so you'll hear us talk about that. Like on my side of the street.
Which is hard and annoying for people who are controlling.
Oh, it's so hard.
Super hard because you're like, no, if you would have done this, but like, I realize even for me being married, the only person I can change is me. As much as I try to change you and you try to change me, the only person I can change is me.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually also good news too, because it means I can actually do something. I'm not a victim,
Yeah.
and I can actually take certain steps. And that's it for me. Like with what you mentioned earlier, tying it back to the beginning of like, hey, where does empathy play a part? I'm like, I agree. That's just not my default.
Yeah.
Like I said, it goes back to the whole pride ego thing for me. Is like I have to admit that I'm wrong. I'm like, I don't like that. And so that's why even too now, like recently, I don't remember what situation I was in, but there's a moment where like, I mean, you already know this. I can be a combative person. I want to argue. I want to even sometimes take a conversation. Let's just blow this up and just get everybody pissed off.
That is so wild.
That's just
to
my
me.
personality type.
Oh, I
That's
know, baby.
just the way I'm wired.
It's wild to me.
And in certain contexts, that actually, like with people who are my similar personality, we have fun. Like it's honestly super fun.
And for me, I'm like, how do we make everyone
Yeah, yeah.
happy and at peace and okay?
But I say that,
And those two got married.
yeah, those two got married. I think it might be interesting in the future to do an episode on just our differences and just trying to make that stuff work. But yeah, and so my thing is like, it's just way easier to just act as though I did nothing and just self-protect and make sure that for me I feel good about myself. Because it's interesting because for you, your personality is very different. We're like, is it, what does everybody think of me? Is everybody okay with me? Whereas for me, I'm like, I hope everybody knows I'm awesome. I hope we're all on the same page about that. But that, like I said, it goes back to pride and ego. But it's true.
I love that you worded it that way. That's
Yeah.
funny.
It's like, hey guys, are we thinking about the most important topic here? It's like me. It's like, and so like it's funny because in certain places I'll tell guys, and because Jamie does a lot of things, like, says a lot of things and does a lot of things. There's like, hey, Jonathan loves the sound of his own voice. 100%. I'm not going to deny that one bit. And that's not even true. In the last episode, you'll see Jamie get at a certain point where she's just like, okay, Jonathan.
Well, I told him, I was like, I think it's been 15 minutes of you just talking. And I was like,
And my response wanted in that moment wanted to go to like, well, I mean, what I was saying was awesome. So of course, that's how long it took me to say it. But here's the other thing though too, is like, I mean, Jamie can't say a compliment to me because I will just eat, like I would just.
I do.
Huh?
Well, okay, so keep going. Sorry.
I'm saying like, you can't say compliments to me, not because you don't, you do, but I just take them and make them like more prideful or egotistical. Like, hey, like great job. Like, I know.
yeah.
Like, yeah, like now you come to, come to the realization and you're just like,
You look so handsome, baby. Oh, I know. All my fans tell me that all the time.
And then the other thing that Jamie does too is like, for me, like when, I don't know, in general, she'll just look at me and she'll just be like,
That's the beginning of our marriage. Like,
Yep.
oh, this person said this about me. I'm like, tell me when to stop. How big did your head get?
how big did it get? And so,
Yeah. If you're talking to somebody else, like patting yourself on the back or like giving your own accolades, I'm like,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Jamie will always keep me in check or keep my feet on the ground while my head's in the clouds.
Or somebody tells me something about Jonathan. I'm like, oh no, please don't tell them that.
Like,
Like,
oh,
is it
please
a
don't tell him
spiritual?
that. Yeah, just keep that between you. So if you have anything to say about this podcast, don't even tell Jamie. Well, tell her she's doing great, but just don't
All
tell her anything
joke,
about me.
all jokes aside, I do compliment you a lot though.
No, you do. But the point I'm making is I don't say, oh, thanks, babe. I'm just like, yeah, like it's what's new? What else is new? What else?
I've been hearing this from my fans.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think to answer your question, like I said, is why, what's the evolution is now I'm realizing the threshold of like God's just starting to show me, hey, like, because my personality type is like I can just blow things up, and honestly, that's just the environment that I grew up in. My family's like, just throw a bomb in there, just let it blow up. If it hurts, people, whatever. My thing is like I just never turn back. I just walk forward, and I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot of hurt people behind me, and I just don't like looking back. I'm like, ugh, like to accept the fact that I, hurt you or hurt other people. I'm like, I think it's also that piece too. So it's like one of them is self-protecting, pride, ego, things like that, and the other thing is like I actually think even sitting there, I'm like, oh gosh, I have to like sit in this moment. This is not what I want. Now it is beautiful when redemption and restoration does happen. It's honestly one of the experiences I love the most. It's like a high for me when I experience that. It's just so beautiful.
When you do apologize and get,
Yeah, and
yeah,
when redemption happens, and even too when I witness other people experiencing that as well, it's so beautiful. Like it's just,
it's just such a beautiful picture of God's grace
but
for us
but
here on
boy,
earth.
is that path sometimes to get there. It takes a lot, and so eventually somebody has to put their sword down. And yeah, so like, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm sure we can take definitely do it round two.
Yeah.
Take more.
Yeah, and figure out how, yeah, maybe other angles. But yeah, like I said, any final thoughts, summary, or anything, and then I'll share something as well.
I think it's just weighing heavy on me knowing that I'm not the only one that has a really hard time with it. The forgiveness side, where it's like I want to be justified. I deserve better. I deserve more. But the truth is, we deserve death. We deserve, because of our own sin, because of our own brokenness. The truth is, we deserve the worst. Like, I love the verse that says, our best is but filthy rags unto the Lord. Like, we can't muster up. We love to think that we're good people. I think most of us think that, oh, I'm a pretty good person. But the truth is, when it comes to how holy and righteous and perfect God is, we can't ever muster up enough to be good enough. And that is 100% where his grace comes in, and our need of someone better than us. And if that is, that is the good news. And if that is new for someone to hear, I pray that that is good news for you, that we can't ever be good enough as much as we try, as much as we want to. There only is one person who is perfect and good enough. And there's a free gift to make us righteous. And so all of that to say, I know I can't be the only one out there that wrestles with the forgiveness side, and I want the grace for me, but I don't know how to extend it. And this whole time I've been thinking about the parable of the servant that owed, I think it's like, let's just say 10 talents to the king. The king puts him in jail, and he's like, please, like, I'll get it back to you. And the king has mercy on him. And then he goes and to his own servant says, you owe me 1 talent. It's like not as much as he owed. I think it's like 10,000. And how often do I do that? I want forgiveness. I want restoration. I want the redemption for me. but I can't go and extend it to someone else. And this is me like vulnerably saying, I really wrestle with that and it's hard for me. But what good news that I don't have to do it alone. And that's what I'm remembering right now is I can't muster up enough forgiveness or grace for anybody else. I have to do it with God's help. And I'm just grateful that I don't have to try to do it alone because I can't and I will fail and I have failed over and over again, not just with this group of people that I'm thinking about, but in my marriage and with you. Over and over again, I need God's help in order to be able to forgive. And there's grace for me and there's grace for you listening and there's grace for you when it is hard.
My final thought is, if you hate anybody, if you resent anybody, if you envy anybody, if you're bitter towards anybody, here's what I would suggest you do based on my own experience that has actually worked. The first thing is, if you feel like you can't, let it go or pray for this individual. I would just pray for the willingness to be willing to do that. God, help me be willing to let go or pray for this person. And once you feel like you've gotten however long that process takes, then it's praying for them, starting to pray for them. But I think the biggest piece, though, is giving it to God, surrendering it. It's like, God, this situation, how this person hurt me, impacted me, all these sort of things, albeit wrong, and God also likely sees it the same way. I don't want to carry this anymore. So I'm surrendering, giving it to you, and I just pray that you help them wherever they're at, whatever they need. Help their family, help their work, their whatever they do, just give them exactly what they need today. And
Even if it's just words in the beginning and your heart's not in it,
Yeah.
it can just be words.
Yep. And so
Borrowing that prayer.
And so I think that that's the biggest thing is pray for, for the willingness and pray for them. And then ultimately, I think the biggest piece is surrendering it, letting it go. And then if it comes up again, honestly, I realize just go back to surrendering it again. Hey, God, I'm trying to take control of this again. I'm trying to be the judge or be the executioner or the jury. It's like, those roles aren't for me, and I'm just going to give it back to you. And honestly, I realize even for me, sometimes those remembrances of them is actually an opportunity for me to pray for them. Mainly because even my thing is especially too, if it's somebody who's harmed a lot of people or just has that tendency, I wonder who else is praying for them. It's like, oh, hey, maybe God, might be a stretch, but maybe God had me experience this as a means to pray for these individuals who need God just as much as I do. So that's what I would leave you all with. That has worked for me, continues to work. And not to say that things still don't come up 100%. I can get resentful and bitter, envious towards anybody, honestly, and for any reason. But yeah, I think that's all I have for now.
Yeah, I was going to bring up one thing from the last episode. I listened to it. And one thing I want to say is I watched the part where we were talking about my counselor and you and how my counselor is so good at being validating and listening to me. And you made the comment, well, yeah, because she's paid to do that. I'm not paid to do that. I saw myself get quiet and I didn't say my thoughts and I didn't finish sharing. And I want to be true to myself and say, we actually talked about this already, that it's not necessarily about the money, and you can share what you actually meant by that, but it's not that because you're not a counselor and you don't get paid for it, you can't also be validating and a good listener. You were just saying that's her skill set. Like, she's so good at that she gets paid to do it, and you are still learning. And so just to clarify, if you haven't listened to the last episode, when we were talking about my needs or my desire for you to be validating when I'm sharing something vulnerable and really listening and not trying to fix, that's something you're working on. You can get there and you can become more of an empathetic listener. That's just a skill that you're working on. And my counselor or counselors in general have that skill and get paid for it because they're so good.